What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you, and one that we have definitely been anticipating because here recently this has become kind of like one of my favorite new death metal bands just because, I don't know, they're just ridiculously fun and they latch on to one particular theme that I absolutely love too. We are going to go over the latest offering from Fulci, Duck Face Killings. This comes out on the 9th of August on 20 Buck Spin Records. Yet again, another 20 Buck Spin Records thing. I mean, yeah, generally anticipate good things.
I've said it before, I'll say it again, 20 Buck Spin doesn't miss.
This band formed in 2013 in Italy. This is their fourth studio album, technically, unless you count the Morrisound Sessions, which came out last year, which was essentially just re-recordings of older material, but they did it over in Morrisound Studios, which, I mean, I get it. I probably pounced on that opportunity, too.
Yep.
And for those that don't know, this is flat out old school death metal packed with riffs, groove, and I mean, as you can guess by the name, they have a very particular theme. They love Fulci movies. And this is honestly a movie that I am not familiar with in terms of the theme of this one. This is based on New York Ripper, which, I mean, Fulci has a lot of movies. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of really bad ones, but his really good ones, you know, namely The Beyond, Gates of Hell, Zombie, you know, absolutely fantastic stuff, but I haven't really checked out, like, his more slasher-oriented stuff, or Gallo, I think is what they call those movies.
Yeah.
But this is based on that, and there's been some changes in the band, namely the fact that this is the first one without a drum machine. They have a real drummer on here.
Always like to see a real drummer playing. Not that drum machines don't have their place in metal anymore, but I mean, like, I think everything gels better when you have all musicians.
I mean, this might upset the Mortician fans that just want to hear, like, the worst sounding drum machine ever, but on top of like the heaviest riffs ever. So
yeah,
I don't know. I welcome the change, and I mean, aesthetically, that might be a slight change. I mean, you can definitely tell it's a real drummer on here, but especially if you like Tropical Sun and Exhumed Information, I think you're probably gonna like this. All the familiar pieces are in place, lots of groove, lots of just relentless chuggy riffs, and you know, despite how absolutely savage and brutal this band is, they are super catchy, and I don't know, maybe like a little bit catchier on this one?
I don't know, well, there's a lot of things in here, namely melody and or harmony, however you want to look at it, that kind of keep things flowing a little bit. Like, I know how in some bands when you get a bunch of just relentless chug, especially when it's meat and potatoes, it can get a little boring, but like, there's tons of tags and harmony riffs to keep things moving. Songs like Morbid Lust and Human Scalp Collection both have at least some melody incorporated. It's usually tags on the end of a triplet chug.
Yeah, I mean, generally they'll just lead in with an absolutely sick riff, because that seems to be the only kind of riff they know how to play on here. And then, you know, that next measure of it, they'll throw in a little harmony just to kind of like add a little accent to it. And then you get these like clever tags at the end of the riffs. There's even some dissonant melodies occasionally on the title track, and one of my favorites, Maniac Unleashed. But everything on here is so deeply rooted in 90s death metal. And, you know, it can kind of go all over the place in terms of that. Like, you get a lot of Floridian tropes, like, namely Cannibal Corpse.
Yes.
There's a lot of Cannibal Corpse groove on here. Or even bands like Dying Fetus or Skinless, which actually, the song Human Scalp Collection features Sherwood Weber of Skinless on vocals, doing backup, well, they say vomits on the album, but I mean, he's just, again, supplying exactly what you'd expect from Sherwood if you've been listening to Skinless for, I don't know, any period of time. But I'd also say this is comparable to like a lot of like newer bands too that are definitely rooted in that sound, like Frozen Soul, Undeath, Inhuman Condition. Bands that kind of just do this like flat out meat and potato style, let the riff kind of carry it and just let you get locked in a groove, because man, this album is so headbangable. You will headbang pretty much from start to finish on this.
Yeah, it's non-stop. Actually, the album flows really well with that in mind. And you're not just limited to one type of headbanging either. Like, they break it up quite a bit. I mean, of course, you get your heavier than heavy suffocation breakdowns, like on Human Scalp Collection. That's got some huge suffo vibes, and they appear all over the record. There's actually a couple songs with titles that I can't say because we're going to get flagged. But then you get a lot of crowd-killing breakdowns, too. We're talking Hatebreed, Earth Crisis, a whole bunch of that metalcore, hardcore evolution. And songs like Maniac Unleashed, Slasher Reality, Rotten Apple, Stabbed, Gutted, and Loved, a true love story.
I mean, I thought it was going to be the ballad, honestly.
Yep.
Like, it's nice at least that story has an almost happy ending, I think.
It does kind of have a happy ending. There's a little lead.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
Yep, you don't get leads often, but it does in the end of that because that is a love song.
Definitely. The big standouts for me are, just the ones that are just unbridled energy. Morbid Lust in particular, that kicks in the door with the double time, like, bolt thrower stomp. It is a instant pit spinner. I would say that song is pretty much a audio representation of a bunch of just sweaty dudes in a circle pit, all of them wearing bolt thrower shirts, all of them just going, fuck yeah, and then just hitting their buddy. Like, that is the energy in that song. Like, it just kind of stays locked in that double time groove. It slows it down for like a pre-chorus, and then it gets into like a big chorus chant. And when it comes down like the instrumentation and everything presented on here, I kind of just dig how this sounds and is presented. Like, the guitars have a great beefy crunch to it. The drums have a pop that was kind of missing on the last one, because I thought the mix, I don't know, it kind of like kept the guitars a little quiet, and I like my drum machines to be less obvious.
I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do with a drum machine, especially if you're choosing to go, again, the meat and potatoes style. If you're not using that big, flashy studio production where you can make programmed drums sound real, like in golf, that guy for sure. I mean, you're not going to get real big, beefy drum sounds, but then if you incorporate real drums, of course, that just kind of brings the magic alive.
And I also like the fact that the vocals are intelligible. They're out front. They have just a great kind of like gurgly but clear delivery. Again, like, everything about it kind of just screams like old school Cannibal Corpse, especially in the beginning, like the opening track, Vile Birchery. I'm reasonably sure he quoted Strip, Rape, and Strangle.
He did.
And it actually probably has a lot to do with the movie by Fulci that I just haven't seen yet. I'm going to actually have to start watching some of these Fulci movies just so I can understand at least what's going on, at least these last two albums by Fulci.
Well, I've only seen actually a few Fulci movies. Like, I realize that he's really good at what he does, but I own Zombie, Gates of Hell, and The Beyond, and just I never really ventured outside of that.
I would say that he had some absolutely amazing films, and then he was very prolific because he kept making films, and they weren't always good. Like, there was one that we watched where I think he was playing himself.
Yeah.
And he was, it was a weird, like, sexually charged, just odd movie. I remember there was a whole scene of him stretching out, him parking a car and doing it very poorly.
Yes.
And it drove me nuts. I wanted to turn off because I was frustrated, because this is someone I would probably yell at. I was like, dude, is this your first time behind the wheel of a fucking car?
And then in that same movie, there's a scene where he runs over a guy who's jogging in the park, but he keeps like backing back and forth over his body. It was really weird.
And while a lot of this, like, you can just say, like, yeah, it's just straight up meat potatoes, old school death metal. I mean, you'd be 100% right, but I like the fact that they pepper in additional elements to kind of like keep it interesting, like namely the more interlude and atmospheric moments. Like, atmosphere kind of exists within the songs too. Like, again, the riff harmonies kind of add a lot. Again, you have some distant melodies that pop up on the title track, and again, Maniac Unleashed. But there's these little interlude and segue tracks, and even like a really cool instrumental at the end where the synths sort of take over. The first one is A Blade in the Dark, which is kind of odd because it's the second track in the album, and at that point, I mean, you've already had your face just hammered in with a brick by the first track. This next one, honestly, it sounds like, the opening credits to like any 80s cop drama. I mean, the song's called A Blade in the Dark, but initially after I said the title, I instantly said in my head, starring Dennis Farina and Sam Waterston. Dennis Farina is the hard-nosed cop that doesn't take shit from anyone, and Sam Waterston is the straight-laced district attorney. Monday nights at 8 on ABC. Dude, it's got kind of like there's a bass line underneath the synths.
I like that bass line.
It's cool. It's awesome. Yeah. It's funky. But it screams like, again, title card for an 80s cop drama. And it's cool as it like segues into the next track. Like, all this flows very seamlessly. And there's like periods of samples that pop up, again, tied to the film. And some of them are, I mean, just sort of interesting, like, yeah, okay, that's definitely like leading into a really gory part. And some of them are just strange, especially if you haven't seen the movie. Like Rotten Apple opens up with Donald Duck murdering a hooker. That's what I think's going on. That's what it sounds like.
It sounded like a pig, but when you made that joke earlier, I was like, I
mean, it is duck face killings. It has to have something to do with a duck.
That's fair.
I don't know. But that sample kind of does set up the song really well. Like, immediately goes into like some stomped accents, a just merciless riff, and then just groove and just riffy punishment after that. And again, all these songs are just super catchy. Sadistic Murder even has like a very strange sample that separates, one riff section into like the big giant breakdown at the end. I don't know what's going on in this sample. I think this dude's trying to sound like a parrot in this one. I need to see this movie just to get some context what's going on in it. But the atmospheric elements, I think, kind of open this up and, give it like a little bit more depth than just, meat potatoes riffing.
A little bit more character to it, too. And then the last track, there's even a little bit more magic going on, as if you weren't already really curious to know what's going on in the film. Il Miel del Diavolo. There it is. It sounds like another film. It sounds like a zombie's coming at you out of the darkness, and there's a little raindrop melody going on. It's a great build, and then you get a saxophone over Funeral Doom.
It's a really interesting song. Like, it starts off very much in the line of Goblin.
Yep.
Like, very Goblin. Then you get a harmony with the synths, like the guitars come in very clean, and then starts to get heavy. It's an instrumental lead out, but it's very lush and atmospheric, and honestly, it's kind of pretty in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that was a really cool way to close this, especially since the last album kind of closed with a Fulci score with the last 4 tracks on that album, which I thought was absolutely cool. I'm a sucker for warm analog synths. But this album also has just some I don't know, stuff I really wasn't expecting, maybe going a bridge too far with the song Knife. I was not expecting a rapper.
Yes.
It kicks off with a very haunting, clean guitar melody. I was like, all right, this is a little bit more brooding.
Yeah.
Then it gets heavy, and all of a sudden, it's like Body Count, right there.
Body Count or Stuck Mojo or something like that. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. It kind of does work in a way. The riff behind it is very just kind of grim
Dark,
sounding.
Evil sounding.
Yeah, and it's one of the few moments on here where it's not just flat out brutal in your face. Generally they save that for more atmospheric tracks. But this track in its entirety kind of has that vibe. And it does switch over to, growled vocals and even kind of half times at the end, so it gets a little bit more gloomy. But, it does fit, but I don't know, it feels very jarring and odd. I didn't necessarily hate it, but I was like, what?
Well, yeah, just with how brutal the record is, both before it and after it, it just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, contextually, the dude who I think his name is Lord Goat, at least that was the dude that was listed.
Oh.
He's talking about stuff that is very thematically appropriate, but I don't know, man. It's just a very odd song, but at the same time, I don't think it was necessarily bad. And the other interlude, Lo Squartatore, maybe that's how you say that, maybe that isn't. I don't know, that one feels just a little bit extra, which is kind of odd because this album's only 32 minutes, but, it's under a minute. It's what sounds like, chatter behind the melody, and it's probably stuff from the film, I could have sworn I heard duck noises. Maybe.
I'm not sure what that was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was background voices or another duck.
But it's a just kind of clean guitar segue into Stabbed, Gutted, and Loved. And I don't know, it doesn't necessarily set it up very well, and it doesn't feel like there needs to be a pause between Sadistic Murder and Stabbed, Gutted, Loved. In fact, those two songs sound like they should be really close together. But in terms of the unexpected stuff, like the saxophone solo at the end, dude, instantly just changes the vibe, the mood. That sax solo is 100% after your girlfriend. It's just got a lot of sexual energy to it.
Oh my God, no.
I know.
Oh my God, no.
That's a you joke.
Oh no.
You're just jealous I took it from you.
I quit.
So overall, though, I gotta give this 4 stars. I dig the hell out of it. I kind of knew I would. I enjoyed the singles. I enjoy what this band does. They strip down death metal to its bare elements, but they still know how to make it super fun. Honestly, I don't think there's a riff on here that I didn't like. And they lock on them so well. And this whole album, I think, is paced really well, even with the interludes on there. It makes it, again, a slightly more immersive listen, despite it being just very meat and potatoes, caveman death metal that just wants to drag knuckles and murder people in a duck mask or something. I don't know. I need to see that movie. There's some killer standouts in here, and in terms of this band's output so far, I don't know. I feel like this is kind of up there with Tropical Sun. It's just straightforward, riffy awesomeness. If you love bands like, again, Cannibal Corpse, Undeath, Frozen Soul, Creeping Death, Jungle Rot, too.
Oh, yeah.
Obituary. Just fun, riffy, groovy stuff. You'll probably dig this. Check it out.
I agree. It's 4 from me as well. It is riffy as all get out. More melody than I expected there to be. Tons of dissonant harmonies, which I didn't expect there to be. It never lets up on the groove, though. There's nonstop, just in-your-face, brutal riffs. Whether they be fast or slow, it seems like they do a good volley in between faster riffs and halftime riffs, and everything just sounds locked on. When those breakdowns hit, they're usually pretty devastating. Lots of slam moments, lots of hardcore breakdowns, lots of suffocation worship in that matter, lots of Cannibal Corpse moments, but it's entertaining. It flows really well from track to track. You don't stop really banging your head or pumping your fist or doing little two-step moments. I do need to see the movie because I feel like a lot of these songs and little like nuances may make a whole lot more sense once I've watched the movie.
I'm sure it's on Disney Plus.
I'm sure it is. Well, yeah, it's Donald Duck. But yeah, it's a good time. If you're fans of bands like Suffocation, Cannibal Corpse, Flesher, Bolt Thrower, Frozen Soul, Dying Fetus, Sanguine Sugarbog, Hatebreed, you're probably going to really like this. I definitely recommend checking it out.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below, thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel, up in the banner in the bottom right-hand corner. But if you're looking for Thralls Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com. We have t-shirts, both old and new. The old ones are discounted, provided we have your size. And we even have hats, too. So if you're looking for any of that stuff, click the link down below.
And as always, tons of stuff going on at Thralls of Metal. Album reviews, discography rankings. If you saw the end of the Meshuggah ranking, then you know how this next batch of discography rankings is going to go. In due time here, we'll put up things to vote on as far as the next rankings are concerned. And you guys will get to input what you think we should listen to. So that'll be cool. And some segments going on. States of Metal. Is it metal? Is it not metal? Bands that changed their sound, best debut albums, I don't know, a ton of stuff. Live streams, just a ton of content coming your way because we are appreciative of you. Thank you very much to everybody that has subscribed, to all of our family and our friends and all our supporters along the way. We genuinely appreciate you. It's been an absolute honor to have you guys be a part of our lives. Thank you for letting us be a part of yours.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule, and we're looking forward to overloading you with more content. So one more big thank you because you guys are awesome, and we will catch you later.